Story 1. I've been working as a museum security guard for 15 years, ever since I retired from the police force. The job seemed perfect for someone who wanted to stay active but avoid the stress of patrol work. I love history, I enjoy helping visitors learn about the exhibits, and most days are peaceful. The pay isn't great, but the benefits are solid, and I get to spend my days surrounded by incredible artifacts from around the world. Our museum houses one of the finest collections of ancient Mediterranean artifacts in the country. My favorite section is the Greek and Roman gallery, where we display pottery, sculptures, and everyday items that are thousands of years old. I've learned more about ancient civilizations in this job than I ever did in school, and I take pride in sharing that knowledge with curious visitors. The centerpiece of our collection is a marble statue of a Roman goddess from around 150 AD. It's incredibly well preserved and worth more than most people's houses. The statue sits behind velvet ropes with motion sensors, pressure plates, and clear signage in 3 languages warning visitors not to touch. We also have security cameras trained on it from multiple angles. Last Tuesday started like any normal day. I was stationed in the Ancient Artifacts Wing, watching visitors admire the exhibits and occasionally answering questions about the pieces. Around noon, I noticed a middle-aged woman spending an unusual amount of time staring at the Roman statue. She was well-dressed and seemed harmless enough, but there was something intense about the way she was looking at it. She stood there for almost 20 minutes, just staring. I've seen people become emotional around certain artifacts before history can be moving, but this seemed different. She was muttering to herself and making strange gestures with her hands. I was helping a school group when I heard her talking to another visitor near the statue. "Karen, I can feel the energy radiating from that piece. It's calling to me." Visitor: "Oh, it's beautiful. The craftsmanship is incredible." Karen: "No, you don't understand. I have a spiritual connection to this statue. I was definitely a Roman priestess in a past life, and this statue was in my temple." The other visitor looked uncomfortable and moved away. I made a mental note to keep an eye on her, but I've heard plenty of strange comments from visitors over the years. Usually, people just look and move on. About an hour later, I was checking on the Egyptian exhibit when I heard the unmistakable sound of alarms going off in the Roman gallery. I rushed back to find chaos. The woman was ducking under the velvet ropes, heading straight for the statue. "Karen, I need to touch it. I need to absorb its energy." "Me, ma'am, stop right there. You cannot cross those barriers." But she was already past the ropes, reaching for the priceless artifact. The motion sensors were screaming, emergency lights were flashing, and other visitors were backing away in shock. "Karen, this statue belongs to me. I was the priestess it was made for." She actually managed to grab the statue's arm before I could reach her. The moment her hands made contact, even more alarms started blaring. The pressure plates detected the unauthorized contact, and the entire wing went into lockdown mode. "Me, let go of the statue immediately. You're damaging a priceless artifact." "Karen, I'm not damaging anything. I'm reconnecting with my spiritual heritage." She was trying to wrap her arms around the statue like she was hugging it. I called for backup on my radio while trying to get her to release the artifact without causing more damage. "Me, ma'am, you need to step away from the statue right now. You're setting off every security system in the building." "Karen, these alarms are just jealous of my spiritual connection. The statue wants me to touch it." My colleague arrived from the other wing, and together we managed to pull her away from the statue. She was still reaching for it and shouting about past lives and spiritual energy. "Karen, you can't separate me from my destiny. I was meant to find this statue." "Museum director, what's happening here?" Our director had arrived with the head of security and what looked like the entire day's shift. The woman was still struggling against us, trying to get back to the statue. "Director, ma'am, you've just committed a serious crime. That artifact is protected under federal law as national heritage property." "Karen, I didn't commit any crime. I was just touching something that belonged to me in a previous life." "Head of security, we're going to need to detain you until the police arrive." Unauthorized contact with protected artifacts is a federal offense. Karen, this is religious discrimination. You're violating my spiritual rights. The police arrived within minutes, along with a federal agent who specialized in art crimes. While they were questioning her, our conservator examined the statue for damage. Thankfully, the marble was undamaged, but we had to document everything for the incident report. Federal agent, ma'am, you're being charged with attempted damage to national property and violating federal protection laws for cultural artifacts. Karen, I'm going to sue this entire museum. You have no right to keep me from my spiritual property. The federal agent explained that the fine for her actions could be up to $50,000, plus potential jail time. She seemed genuinely shocked that there were consequences for ignoring clearly posted rules and security measures. During the investigation, we reviewed the security footage and discovered she had been researching the statue online for weeks before her visit. She had even posted on social media about her plans to reconnect with her Roman past at our museum. The judge wasn't sympathetic to her past life claims. She was fined $15,000 and banned from every museum in the state. Her photo was added to a shared database of problem visitors that museums across the country use to prevent similar incidents. The local news picked up the story, and she became known as the past life lady in the community. Several other museums came forward with reports of her attempting to touch artifacts while claiming spiritual connections to them. We had to increase security around the Roman gallery after the incident. The statue now has additional barriers and more sensitive motion detectors. We also added new signage specifically mentioning that spiritual connections do not override federal protection laws. The school group that witnessed the incident still talks about it during their return visits. Their teacher uses it as a lesson about respecting cultural heritage and following rules, even when you feel strongly about something. I've dealt with shoplifters, vandals, and even the occasional art forger. But I'd never encountered someone who genuinely believed that claiming a past life connection gave them the right to touch priceless artifacts. The whole thing reminded me why we need security in the first place. Some people simply can't control themselves around irreplaceable pieces of history. The statue still sits in its place, undamaged, but now with extra protection. Visitors still admire it daily, and most of them manage to appreciate its beauty without feeling the need to physically claim it as their own. Story 2. I've been working at Bounce Zone for about 8 months now, mostly on weekends while I finish high school. It's a pretty fun job. I get to watch people have a good time, and the pay is decent for part-time work. My main responsibilities include monitoring the trampoline areas, making sure people follow safety rules, and helping with birthday parties. The trampoline park gets crazy busy on Saturday afternoons, especially during the school year when kids want to blow off steam after a long week. We have about 30 connected trampolines in the main area, plus some specialized zones for dodgeball and foam pits. Generally, people are pretty good about sharing space and taking turns. Last Saturday was particularly packed. We had several birthday parties going on, plus the usual mix of teenagers, families, and younger kids just having fun. I was stationed in the main trampoline area, keeping an eye on things and making sure everyone was following the basic safety rules. Around 2:30, I noticed a woman in her late 30s walking around the edge of the trampoline area with her son, who looked about 9 years old. She kept pointing at different trampolines and seemed frustrated about something. Her kid looked embarrassed and kept trying to pull her toward an empty spot. The woman caught my attention because she was wearing regular street clothes, jeans, and a blouse instead of the athletic wear most people choose for bouncing. She also had this annoyed expression that made me think trouble was brewing. I was helping a little girl who had fallen when I heard raised voices coming from the far side of the trampoline area. The woman was standing next to a trampoline where 3 teenagers were taking turns doing flips and tricks. "Karen, excuse me, how long are you planning to stay on this one trampoline?" The teens looked confused. They were sharing the space just fine, and there were several empty trampolines nearby. Teen 1, "We're just having fun." There are other trampolines open if you want to jump. Karen, my son wants to use this specific trampoline, and you've been hogging it for 20 minutes. I started walking over, sensing that this might escalate. The teenagers were being polite, but I could see the woman getting more agitated. Teen 2, ma'am, we're happy to share. Your son can jump with us if he wants. Karen, I don't want him jumping with teenagers. You're too old to be monopolizing equipment that's meant for children. The teens were probably 16 or 17, hardly adults, and our facility welcomes people of all ages, which is clearly posted at the entrance. Me, is everything okay here? Karen, finally, someone who works here. These teenagers are hogging the trampolines and won't let younger kids have a turn. I looked around. There were at least 6 empty trampolines within 20 feet of where we were standing. Me, ma'am, there are several open trampolines available. Everyone is welcome to use any of the equipment. Karen, that's not the point. These kids have been on this one trampoline forever, and they need to learn to share. Teen 3, we've been here maybe 10 minutes, and we offered to let her son jump with us. Karen, don't talk back to me. I'm an adult, and you need to show some respect. Her son was tugging on her sleeve, clearly wanting to just go jump somewhere else. Son, Mom, can we just use that one over there? It's empty. Karen, no, the principle matters. These teenagers think they own the place. That's when she did something that made my blood run cold. As one of the teens was mid-jump, coming down from a flip, Karen stepped onto the trampoline and shoved him hard in the chest. The kid lost his balance completely and crashed down onto the trampoline, then bounced awkwardly and fell off onto the padded floor. He wasn't seriously hurt, but he was definitely shaken up. Teen 1, what the hell, lady? Karen, maybe now you'll learn to respect your elders and share properly. I immediately blew my whistle and called for backup on my radio. Physically pushing someone while they're jumping is incredibly dangerous. People can get seriously injured that way. Me, ma'am, you need to get off the trampoline immediately. You cannot push other customers. Karen, I wasn't pushing anyone. I was correcting their behavior. Someone needs to teach these kids some manners. The teen she had pushed was getting up, looking more angry than hurt. His friends were surrounding him, making sure he was okay. Teen 2, you could have seriously hurt him. That was assault. Karen, don't be so dramatic. I barely touched him. He's fine. My manager arrived just as Karen was trying to justify her actions. Behind him was our security guard, who had been dealing with an issue in the party room. Manager, what happened here? Before I could answer, all 3 teenagers started talking at once, explaining how Karen had pushed their friend while he was in mid-air. Karen immediately went on the defensive. Karen, these teenagers were being disrespectful and hogging the equipment. I was trying to teach them about sharing. Manager, ma'am, did you physically push another customer? Karen, I gave him a gentle nudge to get his attention. He was being rude and needed to learn some consequences. The teen who had been pushed was getting more upset as the reality of what had happened sank in. Teen 1, she shoved me while I was doing a flip. I could have broken my neck. Karen, stop being such a baby. You're fine. This is exactly the kind of entitled attitude I was trying to correct. My manager looked at me, and I nodded to confirm that I had witnessed the incident. What Karen didn't know was that our entire facility is covered by security cameras, including the trampoline areas. Manager, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave immediately. We have a zero-tolerance policy for violence. Karen, violence? I didn't commit any violence. I was parenting those kids because their own parents obviously failed to teach them respect. Security guard, ma'am, you assaulted a minor. That's a serious crime. Karen, I did not assault anyone. I was teaching them a lesson about sharing. The teen's parents had arrived by this point, having gotten a call from one of the kids. They were not happy when they heard what had happened. Teen's mom, you pushed my son while he was jumping. Are you insane? Karen, your son was being disrespectful and monopolizing equipment. Someone had to step in. Teen's dad, by physically attacking a child. Lady, you're lucky he wasn't seriously hurt. Karen, he's not a child. He's a teenager, and he was being rude. That's when my manager dropped the bomb. Manager, ma'am, I need you to know that this entire incident was recorded on our security cameras. We'll be reviewing the footage with the police. Karen's face went white. Suddenly, her story about gentle nudging didn't seem so confident. Karen, you can't call the police. It was a misunderstanding. Manager, you physically pushed a minor customer while he was engaged in a potentially dangerous activity. That's assault, and we're required to report it. The police arrived about 15 minutes later. By then, Karen was in full panic mode, trying to convince everyone that she was just trying to help teach the teenagers about sharing. Officer, ma'am, multiple witnesses say you pushed a minor while he was jumping on a trampoline. Is that accurate? Karen, I was trying to get his attention. These kids were being disrespectful to me and my son. Officer, so you did push him. Karen, I was trying to correct their behavior. Someone needed to teach them about sharing. The officer spoke with all the witnesses, reviewed the security footage, and ultimately arrested Karen for assault on a minor. The video clearly showed her stepping onto the trampoline and shoving the teen with both hands while he was in midair. Karen, this is ridiculous. I'm a mother. I was just trying to make sure my son could have fun too. Officer, ma'am, you're under arrest for assault. You have the right to remain silent. As they led her away, her son was crying and asking what was happening. My manager called the emergency contact number Karen had provided, and the boy's father came to pick him up. The whole incident took about 2 hours to resolve. Karen was permanently banned from all bounce zone locations, and the assault charge stuck. The security footage was so clear that there was no way to argue it was anything other than intentional. The teens ended up staying for another hour, and we comped their admission for the trouble. They were pretty shaken up by the whole thing, but they handled it better than most adults would have. What really got to me was how Karen kept insisting she was teaching the teenagers about sharing, even after she was arrested. She genuinely seemed to believe that being an adult gave her the right to physically discipline other people's children. The whole experience reminded me why we have strict safety rules and security cameras. People can be unpredictable, and sometimes that unpredictability turns dangerous. Story 3. I've been working as a tattoo artist for 15 years, and I own my own shop called Midnight Ink downtown. In all my years of tattooing, I've dealt with nervous first-timers, picky clients, and even people who passed out during their sessions. But nothing prepared me for what happened with Karen last month. It started 2 weeks ago when Karen walked into my shop asking for a custom design. She was a woman in her late 40s, very well dressed, and she seemed to know exactly what she wanted. She explained that she'd been researching spiritual symbols and wanted a combination of Celtic knots, lotus flowers, and Sanskrit text tattooed on her shoulder blade. Karen, I want something that will enhance my spiritual journey and bring positive energy into my life. Me, that sounds like a beautiful concept. Let me sketch up some designs for you. We spent over an hour going through different layouts, fonts, and symbol variations. Karen was incredibly specific about every detail: the size of each knot, the exact shade of the lotus petals, even the spacing between the Sanskrit characters. Karen, this has to be perfect. I'm paying good money for this, and I need it to align with my chakras properly. Me, of course. I want to make sure you're completely happy with the design before we start. She approved the final design, signed all the consent forms, and paid a deposit. The appointment was scheduled for the following Saturday, and I spent several hours preparing the stencil and gathering the right ink colors. The tattoo session went smoothly. Karen sat perfectly still for the 3-hour process, and I was proud of the work. The Celtic knots were intricate and symmetrical, the lotus flowers had beautiful shading, and the Sanskrit text was clean and precise. Karen, it's gorgeous, exactly what I wanted. Me, I'm glad you're happy with it. Remember to follow the aftercare instructions, and it should heal beautifully." She left my shop thrilled with her new tattoo, tipping me generously and promising to recommend me to her friends. I thought that was the end of it. 2 days later, Karen stormed into my shop while I was working on a delicate piece along a client's rib cage. The session required absolute precision and a steady hand, and interruptions could ruin hours of work. "Karen, I want a full refund for this tattoo. I was in the middle of shading a particularly tricky section and couldn't stop immediately." "Me, I'll be with you in just a moment. I need to finish this section." "Karen, no, I need to talk to you right now." My current client, a young man getting his first tattoo, looked nervous as Karen continued shouting. "Client, should I come back later?" "Me, no, please stay still. I just need to finish this line." "Karen, I don't care about your other clients. This tattoo is ruining my life." Karen started pacing around the shop, gesturing wildly at her shoulder where the tattoo was healing under a bandage. "Karen, this thing is giving me terrible spiritual energy. I haven't slept in 2 days. Me, ma'am, I need you to calm down. I'm working with a needle here." "Karen, don't tell me to calm down. I want my money back, and I want this thing removed." My client was trying to stay still, but Karen's shouting was making him tense up. This was exactly the kind of disruption that could lead to a mistake. "Me, I understand you're upset, but I need to finish this session. Can you please wait outside?" "Karen, I'm not waiting anywhere. You gave me bad spiritual energy, and I demand compensation." She pulled out her phone and started recording herself. "Karen, I'm documenting this abuse. You're refusing to help a paying customer." That's when she made her biggest mistake. She stepped closer to where I was working and bumped into my arm just as I was creating a detailed line. The needle slipped, creating a small but noticeable error in the design. "Me, ma'am, you need to leave immediately. You just caused me to make a mistake on my client's tattoo." "Karen, good. Maybe now you'll understand how it feels to have your work ruined." My client was understandably upset about the error, which would require additional time to fix. I had to stop the session and reschedule him for another day. "Client, this is exactly what I was worried about. Can you fix it?" "Me, yes, but I'll need to bring you back when it's quieter. I'm sorry about this disruption." "Karen, I don't care about his tattoo. What about my spiritual energy?" "Me, ma'am, you signed a consent form acknowledging that tattoos are permanent. There are no refunds for custom work." "Karen, that's fraud. You never told me it might give me bad energy." I pulled out her signed consent form, which clearly stated that tattoos were permanent and that the client was responsible for their decision. "Me, it's all right here in your signature. You approved the design and understood the permanent nature of the tattoo." "Karen, I don't care what I signed. I want my money back." I called the police when she refused to leave and continued disrupting my business. While we waited for them to arrive, Karen continued filming herself and ranting about spiritual energy and fraud. "Karen, this is going on social media. Everyone will know how terrible this place is." "Officer, ma'am, this is a private business, and you're trespassing." "Karen, I'm a paying customer. I have rights." "Officer, the business owner has asked you to leave. You need to comply." "Karen, this is discrimination against spiritual people." The officers escorted her out, but not before she posted her video online. Unfortunately for her, the video showed her being disruptive and unreasonable, and I had security footage of her bumping into me during the other client's session. My client decided to sue Karen for the disruption and the damage to his tattoo. He had to take time off work for the additional sessions needed to fix the error she caused. The real kicker came when Karen's own video went viral, but not in the way she intended. Social media users were mocking her claims about bad spiritual energy and pointing out that she'd signed a clear consent form. Someone even screen captured her signed approval form from my security footage and posted it alongside her rant video. The form clearly showed her signature approving the exact design she was now claiming was causing her spiritual problems. Karen, I'm being cyberbullied. This is all fake. But the damage was done. The lawsuit was settled in my client's favor, and Karen had to pay for his additional sessions plus compensation for lost wages. The best part was that several new clients came to my shop specifically because they'd seen how professionally I'd handled the situation. They'd watched the video and were impressed that I'd maintained my composure while she was screaming. Karen eventually tried to get the tattoo covered up at another shop, but they refused to work with her after seeing the viral video. She's still stuck with her bad spiritual energy tattoo, and now she's also stuck with a reputation as the woman who disrupted a tattoo session over imaginary spiritual problems. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting entitled people expose themselves. Story 4. I've been working at Seaside Aquarium for 4 years now, starting as a volunteer in college and eventually becoming the head keeper for our penguin exhibit. It's honestly my dream job. I get to work with these amazing birds every day and help educate the public about marine wildlife conservation. The penguin exhibit is one of our most popular attractions. We have 23 Humboldt penguins living in a specially designed habitat with a large swimming pool, rocky areas for nesting, and climate-controlled viewing areas for guests. The penguins have distinct personalities, and regular visitors often develop favorites. Most people love watching them swim and play, but occasionally we get someone who takes things way too personally. Last Tuesday started like any normal day. I was doing the afternoon feeding demonstration, explaining penguin behavior to a group of about 30 visitors. Kids were pressing their faces against the glass, parents were taking pictures, and everything was going smoothly until this woman started complaining loudly. "Karen, excuse me, that penguin over there keeps staring at me." I looked where she was pointing. She was talking about Oscar, one of our older males who tends to be curious about visitors. He was just standing near the glass doing what penguins do, looking around. "Me, that's Oscar. He's naturally curious about people. Penguins are very intelligent and social animals." Karen, "Well, I don't like the way he's looking at me. It's rude." I wasn't sure how to respond to that. I've never had anyone complain about a penguin's facial expression before. Penguins don't really have the same facial expressions as humans. Oscar is just being friendly. Karen, "Friendly? He's giving me dirty looks. Make him stop." The other visitors were starting to stare at Karen instead of the penguins. Some of the kids were giggling. "Ma'am, I can't control where the penguins look. They're wild animals, even though they live here." Karen, "This is unacceptable. I paid good money to come here, and I don't deserve to be disrespected by some bird." Oscar, completely oblivious to the drama, waddled closer to the glass and tilted his head to the side. "This is normal penguin behavior. They're just trying to get a better look at what's going on." Karen, "There, he did it again. He's mocking me." Ma'am, penguins don't mock people. That's just how they observe their surroundings." Karen, "Don't tell me what that bird is thinking. I know when I'm being disrespected." At this point, other visitors were openly staring at Karen. A few people had started recording with their phones, probably thinking this was some kind of performance. Karen, "I want that penguin removed from the exhibit right now." I'm not going to remove a penguin from its home because you don't like how it looks at you." Karen, "Fine. If you won't do something about it, I will." Before I could process what she meant, Karen started climbing over the safety barrier. The exhibit has multiple levels of protection: a waist-high fence, then a 3-foot gap, then the actual habitat walls. Ma'am, stop. You cannot enter the exhibit." Karen, "I'm going to teach that bird some manners." She managed to get over the first barrier and was now standing in the gap between the safety fence and the habitat. The penguins, sensing something unusual was happening, started making alarm calls. You need to get back behind the barrier right now. This is extremely dangerous." Karen, "I'm not afraid of some stupid bird." She started trying to climb down into the actual penguin habitat. The walls are designed to keep penguins in and people out, so they're smooth and slippery. Other visitors were backing away and several people were definitely filming now. Kids were pointing and asking their parents what was happening. Karen got about halfway down the wall before she lost her grip and fell straight into the penguin pool with a huge splash. The water is only about 4 feet deep, but it's freezing cold. We keep it at around 45 degrees for the penguins' comfort. Karen came up sputtering and screaming about how cold it was. The penguins, understandably freaked out by this intruder, all dove into the water and swam to the far end of the pool. Me, stay where you are. Don't try to get out on your own. I immediately called for backup and activated our emergency protocols. We have procedures for exactly this situation, though I never thought I'd actually need to use them. My supervisor arrived within minutes, along with our maintenance team who brought a ladder. Karen was still in the water, shivering and yelling about how this was all the penguins' fault. Karen, this is your fault. That bird attacked me. Supervisor, ma'am, you climbed into the exhibit. The penguins didn't do anything to you. Karen, I want that bird destroyed. It's dangerous. We got her out of the water and called the paramedics to check for hypothermia. She was fine physically, but her clothes were soaked and she smelled like fish and penguin waste. While the paramedics were checking her out, security reviewed the surveillance footage. The whole incident was captured on multiple cameras, plus all the cell phone videos from visitors. The police arrived about 20 minutes later. Officer Martinez looked at the footage and shook his head. Officer Martinez, ma'am, you're being cited for criminal trespass, endangering wildlife, and destruction of property. Karen, destruction of property? I didn't break anything. Officer Martinez, you contaminated the penguin habitat with outside bacteria and chemicals from your clothes. The entire pool system has to be drained and sanitized. Karen, that's not my fault. I was defending myself. Officer Martinez, from a penguin, behind glass, that you climbed over multiple barriers to reach. The cleanup cost ended up being over $3,000. We had to temporarily relocate all the penguins to our backup habitat while the main pool was sanitized. It took 2 full days to get everything back to normal. But the real kicker came later that evening. Someone had posted their cell phone video of the incident online with the caption, "Karen versus Penguin, Penguin wins." Within hours, it had thousands of views and was being shared all over social media. The comments were brutal but hilarious. People were making memes about Oscar the penguin becoming a social media celebrity. Someone even created a fake Twitter account for him that gained more followers than our official aquarium account. Karen tried to sue us for not properly warning visitors about aggressive penguin behavior, but her lawyer dropped the case once he saw the video evidence. The footage clearly showed her climbing over multiple safety barriers, while staff repeatedly told her to stop. Oscar, meanwhile, became something of a local celebrity. Visitors started asking specifically about the penguin who made that lady fall in the water. He seemed to enjoy the extra attention and would often pose near the glass when people called his name. The whole incident became a perfect teaching moment about respecting wildlife and following safety rules. We even started using it in our educational programs about appropriate behavior around animals. Karen was banned from the aquarium for life, but honestly, I don't think she'd want to come back anyway. The last I heard, she was still complaining on social media about being attacked by a penguin, which only made the memes funnier. Story 5. I've been running online parenting classes for new parents for 5 years now. After struggling through my own early parenting experience with my first child, I realized how much support new parents need. I became a certified parent educator and started offering virtual classes when my second baby was born and I needed flexible work. The classes cover everything from safe sleep practices to feeding schedules, and I've helped hundreds of families navigate those challenging first months. Most of my classes are small groups of 8 to 12 parents, creating a supportive environment where people can ask questions and share experiences. I cover evidence-based parenting techniques, safety guidelines, and practical tips that actually work. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, and many parents have told me the classes gave them confidence during a scary time. Last week, I had a particularly engaged group of new parents signed up for my feeding and sleep safety workshop. Everyone had registered properly, paid their fees, and seemed genuinely interested in learning. The group included several first-time mothers, a couple of fathers, and one woman who had been asking unusual questions during registration. Karen, do you cover alternative feeding methods in your class? I have some revolutionary products that could really help these parents. Me, we focus on evidence-based feeding practices recommended by pediatricians. If you have specific questions about your baby's feeding, I'm happy to address those during the class. Karen, I think you'll be very interested in what I have to share. These products could change everything for new parents. The class started normally. I was about 20 minutes into discussing safe bottle feeding practices when I noticed someone trying to take over the screen share function. Suddenly, my presentation disappeared and was replaced by a colorful catalog with crystals and baby bottles. Karen, hello everyone. I'm so excited to share these amazing products with you today. She had somehow muted my microphone and taken control of the presentation. The screen was now showing what looked like a homemade website advertising crystal-infused baby bottles and healing gemstone pacifiers. Karen, these bottles are made with genuine healing crystals that infuse your baby's milk with positive energy. Rose quartz promotes love and bonding, while amethyst helps with sleep and calmness. The chat exploded with confused and angry messages from the other parents. Parent 1, what is this? This isn't what we paid for. Parent 2, these products look dangerous for babies. Parent 3, can someone get rid of this person? We want to hear about actual baby safety. I was frantically trying to regain control of my own meeting while she continued her sales pitch. Karen, I know this seems unconventional, but I've been using these products with my own children for years. Crystal therapy has been around for centuries. She was clicking through slides showing babies drinking from bottles that appeared to have actual gemstones embedded in them. The bottles looked like they were made in someone's garage, with rough edges and questionable construction. Karen, each bottle is handcrafted by me personally and infused with healing energy through a special moonlight ritual. They're only $75 each, or you can get the complete starter set for $200. More angry messages flooded the chat. Parent 4, this is a scam. Those bottles look like they could hurt a baby. Parent 5, I'm reporting this person to the platform. Parent 6, where's the actual instructor? We paid for a real parenting class. I finally managed to unmute myself and interrupt her presentation. Me, ma'am, you need to stop this immediately. You're disrupting a paid educational session with unauthorized commercial activity. Karen, I'm just trying to help these parents give their babies the best possible start in life. Modern medicine doesn't understand the healing power of crystals. Me, these products are not safe for infants. Crystals can be choking hazards, and there's no scientific evidence supporting any healing properties. Karen, that's exactly the kind of closed-minded thinking that keeps babies from reaching their full potential. My crystal bottles have helped dozens of babies sleep better and cry less. The chat was now filled with parents demanding refunds and threatening to report both her and the platform. Several people were posting links to actual pediatric safety guidelines about bottle construction and materials. Parent 7, my pediatrician would be horrified by these products. Parent 8, this woman is putting babies at risk with this nonsense. I managed to regain control of the screen share and tried to resume the actual class content, but she kept interrupting. Karen, you're all missing an incredible opportunity. These bottles are going to revolutionize baby care. I only have 12 sets left in stock. Me, I'm going to have to remove you from this class now. You're disrupting an educational session with dangerous misinformation. Karen, you can't silence me. I have a right to share information about natural healing with other parents. I used the host controls to remove her from the meeting, but the damage was done. The entire class was derailed, and the parents were upset and confused. I'm so sorry about that disruption. Let me get us back on track with actual safety information. I managed to salvage the rest of the class by addressing the parents' concerns about product safety and explaining how to identify legitimate baby products. Several parents shared their own experiences with people trying to sell them questionable, natural baby products. After the class, I received several emails from participants. Most were understanding about the disruption, but they were concerned about other parents potentially being scammed by similar products. One participant mentioned that she was a moderator on various parenting forums and asked for permission to share information about the incident. Within hours, a detailed post appeared on the scam's subreddit with screenshots of the woman's product catalog and her business information. The post was titled, "Karen Hijacks Parenting Class to Sell Dangerous Crystal Baby Bottles," and included photos of the products and her sales pitch. The Reddit post gained thousands of upvotes and comments within the first day. Parents shared similar stories of people trying to sell them dangerous or ineffective products for their babies. Several pediatricians commented on the safety hazards of putting crystals in baby bottles. The platform where I host my classes contacted me about the incident. They permanently banned her account and flagged her business for fraudulent activity. They also implemented new security measures to prevent unauthorized screen sharing during paid classes. The woman apparently tried to create new accounts to continue selling her products, but the Reddit post had made her recognizable to parents across multiple platforms. Every time she tried to advertise her crystal bottles, someone would link to the viral post about her disrupting the parenting class. Her business website disappeared within a week, and her social media accounts were flooded with comments about the safety hazards of her products. The incident had effectively ended her crystal baby bottle enterprise. I learned to implement stricter security controls for my classes after that incident. I now require approval for any screen sharing, and I have backup moderators to help handle disruptive participants. The experience taught me how vulnerable online educational spaces can be to people with questionable motives. The parents from that class still reference the crystal bottle lady in our follow-up sessions. It's become a cautionary tale about being skeptical of alternative baby products and sticking to evidence-based parenting advice. Sometimes the most memorable lessons come from the most unexpected disruptions.